Henry, welcome aboard. Everything's coming together. Welcome. Happy Sunday morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. Oh, so many are popping in here. Mr. Gerald Scheffler, Mr. Neighbor down the street, GLG Knife Works, Ugly Skull, welcome. Tuck, welcome. Wow, they're popping in fast. Can I get a YouTube check? Check on the YouTube. Dr. Blodgett, I was just thinking about you this morning because I owe you something. And I was looking at something on my bench here for you. Bob Labs, welcome aboard. Firmworks, welcome. Chris, the pragmatic machinist, as I live and breathe. Thank you very much. I'm actually required. There's a new part of my contract. I actually have to wear the hat. All good on YouTube. Excellent. Thank you, Wes. We have quite the lag on YouTube. So, good morning. It is Sunday. It's raining, which is a fitting end to the summer that we've had for the last week. Avery, thank you for your check. Not that kind of check, but there he is. RD Blades is with us, and RD Blades is causing some trouble. So we're going to enjoy your questions today. Welcome, guys. So I'm so happy to report that the Chris gauges. Tuck says it was snowing not too long ago here. I know, but in your neck of the woods, it's always snowing, even in the summer. Paul Morley, welcome aboard. Good afternoon. That's okay. You belong here now. RD Blades, after me telling him thank you for starting trouble, he says that's what I do best. You are a fitting member of this community. So, you know what I didn't grab? Of all the things I grabbed, I didn't grab the Chris gauges. Let me go grab them. I'll be right back. We might as well open with the Chris gauges because that was the big success so far. I'm going to extend my desk here by opening my drawer. So, when we last met our heroes, Robert Wheeler, welcome. I worked with Chris on making a gauge. He designed it basically. I drew it, and then I said I'd make it. So I'm making it. And you've been watching all this. We're going to talk about a lot of the lessons learned today. Here's the. Well, actually, this is kind of fun. I'll show the before and after. Let me put this where it's not going to go flying. There we go. So we made the Chris gauge out of A2 tool steel. So when you buy A2 tool steel, it kind of looks like that. This is a piece of annealed soft A2. Comes in a long bar. You chop it up. It's oversized. So it's 140 thousandths. It's 1 inch and something. I don't remember what. You chop it to whatever length you want. So this is an oversized blank. And actually, in Chris's application, none of the dimensions are super critical. And then when you're all done, you have to heat treat, you have to machine, if you have any machining. This project doesn't have machining. Then you would heat treat, and then you would grind. In every step of this entire process, lessons were learned. Mistakes were made. And we're richer for it. So this is what they look like. Now this is my setup piece. So it actually has 2 bevels, but the actual gauge only has 1 bevel. And there it is, Rockwell about 60, pretty hard. In fact, I was going to say it's like a knife blade, except it really is like a knife blade. And I'll tell you what, those edges are really sharp. I've I've lightened them up a little bit with the PFG stones, just enough. But they came out super gorgeous. They're flat. They're the dimension that's really needs to be flat is stupid flat. Is like unmeasurably flat, and that's the edge of the gauge. But the whole thing came out just beautifully. And it will be getting some lasered nomenclature and delivered into its final application for Chris. So, Chris, thanks for the excuse for learning all sorts of things. We've learned many, many, many lessons, and I am trying to pass all of the lessons learned on to whoever wants to hear them. Hey, Tibor, welcome aboard. Hex Industries, welcome aboard, all 6 of you. And, I have to pronounce this one. I'm going to call you V. Welcome aboard, V. So, we have some stuff on the agenda today. And I've modified it a little bit since my thoughts about what we're going to do today. And because I started getting questions from BD Blades on chat, and therefore, I think we should talk about some things. But before we start anything, we have some official business to take care of. Paging Kevin Howard, paging Mr. Howard, Kevin Howard. Would you please contact me? I got your name right here. You won our contest, but you haven't contacted me. So, Mr. Howard, please contact me. Now, you may make the argument that you have no idea how to contact me. So go to pfgstones.com or kineticprecision.com, make your way to the contact page, and just shoot me an email. But because I know some other things about you, I know you know how to contact me. So contact me. So here's the deal. Today is November the 13th. You have 1 week to contact me. If on next week's live you have not contacted me, we're picking the next winner. And I do have the next winner sitting right here. I'm not telling you who it is, but they're ready. So Kevin, call me. So let's see. That was item number 1 today. And we got that out of the way. OME Machining, welcome aboard. Ba-ba. So number 0 is taken care of. So this process that I've gone through, Chris's gauges, the Chris gauge, I should wave it around while I talk. The Chris gauge was a good excuse, and I'm always looking for an excuse for learning. That's why we're here. And so we learned about heat treating. I made some mistakes in heat treating. I didn't know I made mistakes in heat treating until I did some more research. Not big mistakes, but I made some mistakes. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Well, the very first batch, you may recall, batch number 1 were made junk by my failure in heat treating. So there you go. There was a complete and total failure in heat treating. Later, I learned that my application of cryo was not a mistake, but it was. I now know how to do it better. Cooper Custom, welcome aboard. So we went through the heat treating process. Finally, we had a success in the heat treating process. Then we went through the process of getting them flat. Well, during the process of getting them flat, I made a mistake. I did mechanical straightening early in the process. I should not have done that. I built stresses in. That was a failure. I had to recover from my failure, which we did. Then we got into just the last couple of days, I went to figure out how to grind the bevels, right? And I made this contraption, which was worthy of being called a Rube Goldberg. Okay, Bob Labs, you can catch us on the recording. And I made a machinist vise and a machinist vise setup. It worked, but it had some resonances in it, and then light dawned on Marblehead, and I figured out, oh, you idiot, there's a simpler way to do it, and we did it. So really, the first, in fact, this was the gauge, and it was the reason I put two bevels on it, was because I did it the first way with that Bonzo setup, and then I did it the second way, and it came out much better. And actually, I would defy anybody to tell which was which. It's really hard to see, but I knew. So then we improved, and we made it better. And the magnetic squaring block on the sign plate was awesome. Came out great. So we finished those up yesterday. Why am I bringing all this up? Because at each step of this process, there was failure. Over and over again. And you have to fail in order to learn. If you're not willing to fail, you're not going to learn anything. And you're not going to get good at anything. You have to fail. So somebody once said, embrace failure. It's true. Because it's what leads to success. So pick a project that you're working on, try some stuff that you've never tried before, and fail at it. It's funny, I picked up my squaring block. If you paid real close attention in the video, you saw that it was a Suburban Tools 6-inch squaring block. And when I got that, I was still on my first grinder on the Harrig, and I was still learning, I was still feeling my way around. And the squaring block was one of my first precision projects, where I was trying to get the block, dead square, so I could plop it on the table, put something on it, and grind. And I tried and failed, and I tried and I 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 failed. But in doing all of that, I learned things like using Dicam as a shim. That was a pretty cool thing. I thought I invented it. I didn't invent it. And if you look at the top of the magnetic chuck surface of that unit, you'll see that the grind on the magnetic on the top of the chuck was pretty lousy. It was terrible. It totally adequate to task, but what it showed, I could read it now. I didn't understand how to dress a wheel at the time properly. I just didn't understand a whole bunch of stuff, but I failed at it and got better at it. So my message for you on this morning is embrace failure. Go fail at something and learn from it. If you fail and you don't learn from it, you kind of wasted everybody's time, okay? Go fail at something and then let that be the cause of learning. And that's the message for today. So in light of that, you may recall that I recommended, I don't know if I recommended it, but I said that I had gotten this book. I think I did recommend it. And this book has already taught me more about heat treating than I ever knew before, okay? I thought I knew something about heat treating. I didn't know squat. So the reason I learned something about heat treating, can you all see that? Is that I learned something about what heat treating is doing. And I think this is really important. And so I'm at, page 46, and I think I finally understand what heat treating is doing and why I did some things wrong. You see my highlights? By the way, this is a thing called a book. It's made out of dead trees. It's pretty cool. Highly recommended. I'll have more information later. And then when you get into the back of the book, I cheated, I went ahead, and I started learning about cryo treatments and why the way I've applied cryo treatments is wrong. I'll give you a sneak peek. This is not definitive, but because you have to read the book, or I'll give you a better summary later. But cryo should be done right after quench. So if you think of it from a temperature point of view, you're going up to high temperature. So you're going from ferritic steel up to austenite. There you go, Carl. Is Carl here? Carl's not here to correct me. I kept calling it austenite. It's austenite. Up to austenite, and then you quench to do the transformation to martensite. Well, what I learned is as soon as your quench is, you could handle the material, you go right into cryo and you keep going down. Okay? And there was a curve, beautiful curve in the book that explained why that is so. And then you'd come out of cryo and go into your temper. Okay? And after that, if you're the kind of, if you want to have a process where you're doing multiple tempers, that's where you're going from there. I was never doing that with cryo. I didn't understand that. I would heat it up. I would quench it to room temperature plus, like 125 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I would go into temper, and then after temper I'd go into cryo. Totally wrong. Now, when I say totally wrong, I don't mean it makes junk if you do that, but it's wrong. I learned about that. So, the knife engineering book by Dr. Laren Thomas, who, by the way, is a character and has a YouTube channel. And you should check it out. And he has a daughter. I respect him because he also has a daughter that gives him trouble. So it's kind of funny. So much learned. Good book. Starting to get the heat treating thing figured out. And you know, for me, the heat treating process, I want stability. I want to hit the hardness that I designed for, and then I don't want the steel to change over time. And all of those things I now understand how to achieve better. So highly recommend the knife book, Knife Engineering by Dr. Laren Thomas. And also check out his YouTube channel, which is the YouTube channel is Knife Steel Nerds. In fact, I think, is it on the back? Yeah, there it is. Knife Steel Nerds. Website, knifesteelnerds.com. Good job, Laren. Okay, so you guys know that if you have any questions at any time, you could pop them in the chat, and if I could address it immediately, I will. If not, we'll put it in a little later in the right part of the program. So, my plan today got interrupted by questions I got on chat. So I think we're gonna head off into what I'm now calling Beginner's Corner. Hey, Justin Palin, welcome aboard. So we're going to start doing a beginner's corner, and if we have some questions, that will drive us. But BD Blades asks, what about hubs? So that's a short version of what he actually asked. But he has a grinder, a Norton grinder. I don't remember if he told me that it was a number 2. And he was asking me questions about stuff. And he sent me pictures of surfaces he ground. And we figured out he had a balance problem. We figured out that he probably maybe has a dress problem. But when we got down to the bottom of it, it was unclear that he was mounting a Brown and Sharp. Okay, so RD Blaze had a Brown and Sharp number 5. Okay. He's in the chat on Instagram. And once you start doing a bunch of grinding, you start looking at surfaces and you could start to diagnose what's going on. But he absolutely had a wheel balance problem. And then I think we uncovered a bit of how to mount a wheel on the hub, and the fact that the hub should live with the wheel and that kind of thing. So I wanted to show you what the pieces are of a wheel on a hub, and along the way there's going to be commentary even for the advanced guys as to things you should think about. So when you go and you pick up a wheel, maybe you've just bought a wheel, it comes like this. Okay, it's a wheel. It's got two blotters on it, and it's got a hole in it. Usually, in my world, that hole is generally 1.25 inches. Okay. In other worlds, it will be different. And certainly as you go to bigger machines, that hole grows. I think the next stop is a 3-inch hole in typical modern grinding wheels. For example, John Grimsmo, we have a rule, I have to point at his sticker every time I say it. John Grimsmo has the bigger brother to my grinder, and he has the 12-inch wheels, and I think it's a 3-inch hole in the middle. Hey, M. Clark, welcome aboard. There he is, Carl. Welcome aboard. We were talking about you. That's why you showed up. So that's what you buy. When you buy from your supplier, that's what you get. Couple of points on pulling a wheel out of the box. When you order Norton wheels from your supplier, there's two ways that they come to your supplier. They come in bulk, and they come in single unit packaging. In some of the more common wheels, you can get them in single unit packaging, and it'll cost a couple of bucks more typically. The nice thing about single unit packaging is that the wheels are protected right from the factory, and they're in a cardboard box, and it's one wheel, and I have, unfortunately, I don't want to run and grab it, but I have a few. Yeah, I know where one is. Hang on. Let me grab it. I'll show you what it looks like. Excellent. Perfect. I found it. Okay, so when you order a wheel in single unit packaging, it looks like this. I guess I think I opened this one. Right? So you have one wheel, it's nicely packaged, it's protected in cardboard. If you have the option of ordering a wheel, there's the part number, in a single unit packaging, you could basically be rest assured it's going to come exactly like it was meant to be. No chips, certainly no cracks. This is a pretty nice way, but it costs more. The other thing is some wheels you cannot get in single unit packaging. That's the way it is. I just ordered some 5SG wheels, 3/4 inch thick, 8-inch wheels. They weren't coming in single unit packaging. So my very nice supplier said I can get them in. Hi, Carl. Carl's typing with both hands. He ordered a carton of 10 of them for me, and he's keeping them on my shelf. This is the guy, this is the outfit that I get my stones from, so they kind of like me. I have a vigorous account. So, hi guys, Edward, Unix Carbide, welcome aboard. You accidentally closed your app, but you're back, right? You didn't miss anything, don't worry. Plus, we're recording it for you. So, the other way you get it is in bulk. Now, here's the problem, and I had an issue years ago with McMaster Carr, and I actually educated them on grinding wheels, is that if they don't know what they're doing, your supplier might take your wheel out of a bulk box where I think there's cardboard, just kind of cardboard between the wheels, throw it in a box with all your other junk and send it to you. Teach your supplier. You might have chips, and in the worst case, you might have a crack. So when we take the wheel out, blotter, you check it, you double check that it's the one you want, right? All the nomenclature is right there, right? You take your wheel, you put it on a, for example, here's a metal thing, right? And you ring it. Let's see. You hear it has a tone to it. You spin it 90 degrees, you do it again. Okay? And then it also sheds stuff that it used it was used for grinding all over your table. So that says that it's not cracked. If you hit it and it goes thud, it might be cracked. So that's how you get your wheels, okay? Now, in the odd case where you lose a blotter, or you have an old wheel that loses a blotter, this is the blotter, the piece of paper here, okay? And you might say to yourself, it's just a piece of paper, I don't need it. Yes, you do. The blotter, here's a blotter on its own, okay? The blotter is doing an important job on the grinding wheel. So it's protecting, it's absorbing the sharp points of the grits so that they don't bear directly on the steel of your hub and cause a very high stress point. All right. So then you take your hub. So this is a hub. This is a Sopco. I think this is a Sopco 0100, also known as a Sopco 100. It has a nut. Usually it's left-hand thread. Okay, and it has a washer. So the big part has your taper, right? It's got a taper. It's got this threaded portion, and the base of which is where your wheel's going to rest. And that's where the wheel goes. Moink. Then, on top of your threaded part, you put your washer. And then you put your nut. Now, the nut has a recessed part and and a part that probably has an engraving on it. Like this one says LH for left hand. Moultrie Maid, welcome aboard. Is that Georgia? All right, so we have wheel, blotter, washer, nut. The washer does not go on the other side, okay? You know why that happened? Because my fingers are doing a right-hand nut. There we go. The washer gives the nut a surface to bear on when it gets tightened, okay? So this is all ready to go grind, right? No. This has to be tight, okay? Tighter than you think. So the way I do it is I have two of these spanner wrenches. This is a Sopco part. Sopco number 35135. McMaster Car Catalog and others. All right. It's got spanner wrench here. Paul Morley says he did his first A2 heat treat in his new oven and immediately then realized he had missed one hole in the item. So now you've done your first hard milling for your first through hole, for the through hole. Awesome. See? Failure. Failure leads to learning, and learning leads to success. So, spanner. I have two of these. I put one in my vise, leaving the forks up, okay? And then I go balance my wheel. Come on, get on there. I go balance my wheel. It'll stay there, okay? On my vise, I take my second one, and I put it up here, and I go gronk. You should tighten it a lot, okay? Don't add a cheater bar. Do not add a cheater bar, but you should take that wrench, this length, and tighten it, okay? It should be tight. Once you're done with that, now you're ready to put the wheel on the machine, okay? Now, you'll notice the side that goes toward the machine. Now, it depends on what spindle you have and what hubs you use. But if you have this little boss right here, see that boss right there? You could use one of my balancing rings, and that clamps on that boss, and it lets you balance the wheel. So that's how to get the wheel on the hub. I think we're going to end it there because this is not a full lesson on getting the wheel, up and running on the machine. But this is how you go from the wheel coming out of the package to the wheel mounted on the hub. Now you have to balance, true, sides also, okay, balance, retrue, dress, grind. And if you leave out any of those steps, you're going to get a subpar performance. Okay, I think that's enough on this topic. But did that help you, RD Blades? Did any of that? Was it there any? Were there any ahas in that? Because if there was some ahas, I think we... Oh, that's the other thing. Notice I didn't tighten this properly, so I'm going to make absolutely certain that I take this off the hub so I don't pick it up and try to start using it, because that would be a mistake. Anybody have any questions, comments, or snide remarks on that particular part of the process? This has been Beginner's Corner. Okay. Just wanted to get that out of my way. And that wheel, this was a wheel that was given to me, and that wheel has seen some has seen some work. Okay. Excellent. He says, yes, thank you. Outstanding. So, back to the Chris gauges. Hey, there he is. The Machine Shop 10EE. Welcome aboard, Dan. So when I mounted this thing up and I went to do the bevels, and I finally got my head around using my squaring block on a sine table, and then just doing the bevels, I ended up doing a plunge grind. Now, when you manually are grinding, you could do all sorts of things on the fly, but when you're programming a CNC grinder, you kind of have to think about what you're doing. So I decided, oh, you lost audio. That's too bad. You can catch it on the replay. Lost audio? Really? On Instagram. Okay, everybody, don't panic. Lost audio. Let's see. That's audio off, and that's audio on. Instagram, you should have audio. Can somebody who's playing with both hands tell me if audio is coming through? How about now? Can you hear now? Failure is what leads to success. I'm going to wait until somebody tells me on Instagram that they're actually getting audio again. This is weird. Oh, it's definitely jumpy. Okay, so YouTube audio is good. Taunus Mechanics, welcome aboard. Do you have audio? This question's for Instagram. Do you have audio now? We're transmitting audio, man. Oh, you miserable. Okay, thanks, Tuck. I have no explanation at all. You guys, you want me to restart the... should I restart the IG Live? The Instagram side? Let's see. The YouTube link. You can't read that, can you? God damn it. Okay, yeah, head over to YouTube. Go to YouTube. You guys. Hang on. You guys in YouTube, just, have a coffee or something. I can't write backwards. These guys. I'm going to dump the Instagram live and I'm going to restart it, okay? So, Carl or Kevin, I think you guys are both on Instagram. Just tell me if the Instagram live comes up with audio. Okay, Danny, welcome. We do what we got to do. Instagram, I have to admit that YouTube has been very solid. And I just restarted the Instagram live. We'll see if that works. Give it a minute. Oh, that's a good idea. Hang on. Kevin had a very good idea. Wait. That's awesome. Okay, they're coming back. Do you have audio? Where's my audio question? Do you have audio? Okay, I can't explain what happened. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to recover. I don't think anybody watches the old videos on Instagram anyway, but the YouTube is primary. So if you guys want to watch it after the fact, it'll always be on YouTube. Unconformable, welcome aboard. Thank you for giving me your Instagram handles because that helps me. Instagram is working. Okay, sorry guys, I don't know what happened on Instagram that audio was lost. Okay. All right, we'll give it 1 minute for everybody to get settled again. But seriously, start coming in on YouTube. I strongly recommend it. Okay. The channel is I'm having too much fun with this. The channel is Kinetic Precision NH. That's the YouTube channel. And thanks to Mr. Blodgett. Was it Mr. Blodgett? Yeah, Mr. Blodgett suggested this for showing you a text. Even though it's backwards. That's awesome. Okay. We're back. So where were we? What was the last thing that we were talking about? Oh yeah. So when you're on a CNC grinder, you have to, hey Proteum, you have to define what you're going to do. So when I was working on these bevels, okay, I decided they were just going to be a plunge grind. Why? Because the bevel is narrower than the wheel. So I could just go down straight and just move the wheel down and I'm done, right? Well, yes and no. That works. And that is a plunge grind. But something interesting happens on a plunge grind. You're not seeing the whole face of the wheel. So if the wheel gets any wear in it, it's like a form grind. No, we started right on time, Carl. I can't explain YouTube notification failure, but don't know what happened. So when you do a plunge grind, you get the shape. You get the shape of the wheel. And the wheel wears. So one of the points that I wanted to make today was that as manual grinder guys, I don't think we dress the wheel enough. I think we assume we dress the wheel at the beginning of the day and we're good for the day, and that is absolutely not true. That wheel wears. And, you know, Robin said something to me. We were on the phone 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about chuck grinding. And he said that he didn't believe that what I was calling wheel loading as being the problem as you come across the chuck. He thought that wheel wear was a bigger problem than wheel loading, and it's quite possible. This is me saying it's quite possible that Robin's correct. Yeah. So I started paying attention to wheel wear when I use auto dressing on the Okamoto. And what happens is you could program it to say, after you've ground down, let's say, 10 thousandths, I want you to go dress. So that happens during the process, and it goes and it dresses. But you have to be there. This is amazing. You have to be there to listen to the sound of the dress, because it tells you that sound is literally reading you the shape of your wheel. So I was able to hear the groove that was cut in the wheel from plunge grinding this bevel, as the wheel just went straight down, okay? And I actually had to increase my dressing frequency because it sounded like it wasn't fully dressing. At least once, I had to hit the magic button that was called a dress interrupt, that says, no matter what you think you're doing, next chance you get, I want you to dress. So it went and it dressed the wheel. And then later, I changed the dressing frequency from, I can't exactly remember. I think it was set to every 20 thousandths of downward feed on the plunge grind, go dress. I had to set it to every 15 thousandths, and then my ears told me that it was okay. Because if it goes across the wheel, where's my wheel? Here it is. Right, so here's the diamond. So as the diamond goes across the wheel, if you hear zzz, zzz, you just heard the groove in the wheel. It cut the wheel, it stopped cutting, and then it kept on cutting. What does that tell you about the shape that's remaining in the wheel? It still has a groove in it. Let me get my there we go. I got the graphic system up and running. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. If your wheel looks like this, right? There's your wheel. And now your diamond comes along and you go to dress the wheel, and it dresses the wheel like that. What does that sound like? That sounds like bzzz, bzzz. And that's exactly what I was hearing. And I realized, oh, I'm not dressing properly. And I went and I hit the button, and then it came in and it did it again. Okay, and I played that game a couple of times. That's your wheel. I know. That's funny. You recognized it right away. So the sound that your wheel makes when you're dressing, this was, I always paid attention to it, but when the CNC machine is just kind of doing it, and you could just listen and your hands aren't doing anything, this was so obvious, it was like ridiculous. So I changed on my fine pass, so I save a couple of tenths for the fine passes. I told it to dress twice to make absolutely sure that it got a good dress. So if you walk away from this little piece of video with any bit of information, it's start paying attention to what it sounds like when you dress the wheel, and it will teach you all sorts of things. It basically, you will hear that curve. You will hear that curve. You will see it. It will be obvious. It was unbelievable. So that was that a failure? Did I fail? I failed, and then I succeeded. So that was a huge discovery. Not huge, I mean, but the lesson here is that the wear ratio, work to wheel is, or wheel to work, or how much your wheel wears versus how much you're cutting, is bigger than you think. The sound, yeah, every wheel has its own note. Craig Camp says we were taught to take 1,000ths at a pass and listen for a clean pass. Yeah, I take 1,000th. This one I was taking 8/10ths, so almost 1,000th. And visually the wheel looked flat. I didn't look visually. I didn't have to. So K-Bonk asks the question, did the wheel look flat? I didn't look. It's covered in coolant. Stuff is flying. It's down in the corner of the table getting dressed where you can't see anything. I knew everything I needed to know with my ears. I didn't look. Carl says, you're saying you should always have the wheel moving laterally to average the wear on the wheel. Yes. So there's a complication when, hey, CNC 8.3, welcome aboard, sir. Nice to have you here. I'm trying to send you a wave. The thinking was a smaller pass might actually burnish the sharp cutting edges. Yes. Absolutely. Burnish, I'm not sure I would use the word burnish. So when I go to the CNC machine and I say I want you to do a plunge grind, I wasn't smart enough when I did it to be able to tell it to do what you're saying. Because every time the wheel made a pass, I wanted the wheel to move, okay, down. And by definition, that's a plunge grind. I think there's a way to do it in the programming to tell it to move around the wheel, but it would be a trick, and I didn't know how to do it. So plunging is likely to put a shape in the wheel? Yes. That's Carl's question. Plunging is likely to put a shape in the wheel. Here's the thing. Every cutting process is going to wear the cutting tool. Full stop. What is surprising is the amount of wear that a grinding wheel gets compared to what you think the grinding wheel is getting. It was more than I thought. So you just have to adjust your thinking. The nice thing is on the CNC grinder, you have your roughing passes and your finishing passes, and you could just rough like a madman and not give a rip that it's getting a weird shape, and then go and dress really nice for the last kiss, for the final finishing, and you'll get a good result. That was interesting readjustment of the whole grinding philosophy. So my one sentence takeaway is we dress less than we should. We generally aren't dressing enough. And that was really obvious. And the other lesson is trust the sound, learn from the sound during the dressing. It really is telling you the shape of your wheel. So I think we are correctly taught to listen for that nice zzz, that nice steady zzz, when we're dressing a wheel, and if we hear that, everything is good. What I'm saying is when you hear zzz, zzz, you should think everything is bad, right? Carl says, if you're cutting a few tenths, wheel shape is bad. Carl, if I was traversing with that wheel, right, as a standard traverse grind, right, pass, move over, pass, move over, pass, move over, and doing a surface, then the shape of the wheel will impact the quality of the grind, but not the shape, because it will have seen the entire wheel. But if you're doing a plunge grind, you're at the mercy of whatever shape is on the wheel. So if it gets wear, it gets wear. Done. Oh, I like that. So CNC 8.3 says macros. Yeah, you could write a macro to do that kind of thing. Absolutely. But I'm trying to get a job done, right? So my solution was dress more. And then he says, dress unless you want to mess. Thank you. We will always remember that. That was a really super good lesson that happened yesterday. Was it yesterday? It's all a blur. It's all a blur. So the wheel wear ratio is bigger than you think, and use the sound when you're dressing. Oh, so Carl's asking. Yeah. So a little bit of wheel shape, if we're traverse grinding, is often not even noticed. Trust me, it's often not noticed. What we tend to do is we just make a smaller step over until it looks good, or, right? That's what we do. But if you had a perfect wheel with a perfectly flat dress, you could step over the whole wheel width and get a good grind, right? But try to do that with a real wheel in a real situation, and you'll start just imprinting the wheel shape on your part. And that's what a plunge grind does. Yeah, that was a great lesson. So, how are we doing? We're coming up on the top of the hour. If you guys have any questions on any topic, put it in the chat. I wanted to say thank you to Robin Renzetti. So about a week ago, Robin posted a little Instagram thing about setting a sign table. And what did I find myself doing this weekend? I was setting a sign table, and he said if you set the little guide and clamp thingy just right, and you put a little pressure on it before you tighten it, it will put a little spring action that pushes your sign table down on the gauge block stack. That worked great, and really helps. There's other ways to do it, but he came up with that as a quick and dirty to get a job done. We like those. And I was trying to get a job done, and it was a quick and dirty, and it worked awesome. Yes! Oh, CNC 8.3 says, plunge grinding requires a lot more horsepower, doesn't it? So as my plunge grinding was going, I initially gave it 4/10 to take off, and I thought that was no problem, Carl. No worries, buddy. I thought 4/10 was great. And I kind of doing my thing, and I go over to my control panel, and I'm looking at my motor current, and I'm like, boy, you're actually doing some work on those passes. And I ended up taking 25% of that off and went to 3/10. But yes, it wasn't crazy, but yes, it was definitely higher than I usually aim for. It was pretty cool. And I was using a small wheel. So that was part of the equation too. Anyway, so one of the guys, oh, forgive me for forgetting who said it, said something about life's too short to have. How did he say it? He said something about tight stacks, referring to Robin's trick to keep the pressure on the gauge block stacks. And I said that I played bass for tight stacks back in the 80s. It went on for a while. Has anybody mounted a hard deburring wheel on a surface grinder? That's a good question. I never have. I use them. I have one right right there, one of these 3M non-woven, very dense wheels. Has anybody ever mounted one on a surface grinder? If anybody has, let me know. I know in milling machines, VMCs, you could get effectively the same thing in a tool that is used for deburring, but I've never heard of it used on a surface grinder. Okay, buddy, CNC 8.3 is running along. We'll see you next week. Hey, and thanks for doing the thing you did for the guy you did the thing for, okay? I'm just saying. So we talked a little bit about tight stacks. That was pretty good. Another thing I spotted last night while I was crashing, watched a video from Steve Summers. He's got a great channel. He's a lot of fun. He's a really good machinist and a good problem solver and a good get-her-done guy. And he was putting his mill back together. He bought this mill. It was a Dual, big beefy knee mill, and he's been rebuilding it for a year, maybe more. And he finally was putting it back together, and he picked up his precision stones and went to stone a surface that he just scraped, and he launched into this. It had to be a minute and a half, 2-minute diatribe on why you should have precision ground stones. Steve, you're absolutely correct, and I thought that was great. So for the precision ground stone community, I say thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Which leads me to a commercial. If you do not have precision ground stones, what are you even doing? Go to pfg.gg and you can order the finest precision ground stones in the world. They're PFG. Don't forget. Can you share what the Chris's gauges are used for? Or do we have to wait and see his posts once you finish them? I'm afraid that you're going to have to hear it from Chris because it's his information. So I'm going to have to decline. I don't want to spill the beans. But it is a professional application for him. This is not a hobby application. So I can't tell you yet. If he tells me to tell you, I'll tell you. But it may be early. So Steve Summers, thank you for spreading the gospel. And with that, I'm looking for more questions. We're doing perfect on time here. I apologize for the weird Instagram thing that happened. I'm still confused as to why it happened. So I'm happy to go a few more minutes if we need it. Yeah, K-Bonk says if Chris ever comes out of the woods. As far as I know, he's still in the woods. And that's okay. Hang on, I think somebody just walked in who I think knows Chris. Hang on one second. Do you know Chris? If you know Chris, why are you still here? Because, is he not very good with that bow? All right. You want to go back to your thing? All right. That was Henry. Henry says hi. Do you have a collet chuck for your surface grinder? I want to get one, but the Sopco model is $550 plus. A collet chuck. You mean for work holding? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean on the spindle? Wallet tool, my buddy. While you're answering my question, I will point out that Wallet Tool is responsible for the fact that I make the minis. He inspired the size of the stone. I don't know what a collet chuck for the surface grinder means. You must mean on the spindle, but I don't get it. Or do you mean a collet chuck that sits on the table holding a piece of round work? I'm just confused. Anyway, we might have lost Chris on the debacle here. Oh, so K-Bonk is suggesting a 5C spin jig? Is that what you mean? Do you mean a spin jig? Come back, Aaron. Aaron, come back, Aaron. Technology has been a little questionable. So I'll answer. K-Bonk says a spin 5C chuck. I have a Suburban Tool Master Grind, which is capable of doing 5C collets. I also have a cheap import thing that I don't use on the grinder. But the Master Grind does a good job. I'm trying to think if I ever used it with a 5C chuck, with a 5C collet. I think I always use the V-block and dial it in. So make fix. I think that's logical. You might get the award today for last guy in before we shut down. So I'm not sure if our network is being very responsive today, especially on the Instagram side. So I want to encourage everybody for next week, same bat time, same bat channel, try to come in on the YouTube side. I think it's just more reliable. And eventually, if we get enough action on the YouTube side, we may go YouTube only. I'd like to hear your feedback on this. If you have any opinions as to going YouTube only, or if you're waving your hand in the air saying, no, keep doing the lives on Instagram, I really would like to hear back from you. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up. If there's anything I can do for you folks during the week, any information that you want covered, let me know. Otherwise, have a great week. Go enjoy the day. Go make something in the shop. I know I'm making something in the shop. I'm doing stones today, and I've got a bunch of orders. Right now, we're running 4-inch round stones and 4-inch round carbide stones, because for some reason the world just decided it needed to go round. Who am I to argue? It will be 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Last week was an anomaly to allow for people who didn't get their clocks changed. Danny, I'm happy to help. Look forward to seeing you some more. Kevin, thanks a lot. K-Bonk, thanks for being here. Craig Camp, thanks for being here. And YNI something. You just stole the award for last guy in before we shut down. Take care, folks. Have an awesome weekend. If you need stones, head over to pfg.gg and get what you need. I'll make them for you right here.